August 17, 1943. 25,000 feet over Schweinfurt, Germany. The sky is a graveyard. Black puffs of flak bloom like thunderclouds across a pale blue horizon. The air smells of oil and ozone. Inside the cockpit of a Boeing B-17F Flying Fortress named Hell's Fury, Captain Joe McKenna grips the yoke until his knuckles turn white. His intercom crackles with static and screaming voices. "Bandits! 12 o'clock high! Tail gunner to pilot! Incoming from the sun!" McKenna glances left. A wall of silver glints in the distance. Dozens of Messerschmitt Bf-109s diving at full throttle, their cannons spitting fire. The formation around him shudders under the assault. The Hell's Fury takes a hit to the right wing. Metal shrieks. Alarms blare. The co-pilot swears. "Feather number 3, McKenna shouts. "Keep her steady." He looks out across the formation. 376 bombers, each carrying 4 tons of explosives, crawling towards Schweinfurt, the beating heart of Germany's ball-bearing industry. Below, the city's factories glint like knives in the sun. Above them, the Luftwaffe circles like vultures. Just 2 years earlier, those same German pilots had mocked this machine, the American Flying Fortress. They called it slow, heavy, clumsy, a flying barn door. One Luftwaffe ace famously told a war correspondent, "We'll shoot them down faster than they can build them." But that day, as wave after wave of B-17s pushed deeper into German airspace, those same pilots began to realize this was no ordinary bomber. Each fortress bristles with .50 caliber Browning machine guns, 13 in total, positioned like the spines of a steel hedgehog, nose, tail, belly, and both sides. Every direction is a kill zone. A Bf-109 dives too close. Its cannon shells rip through the fuselage of the lead plane, but before it can pull away, tracers from 3 different B-17s tear it apart mid-air. The German pilot's final scream vanishes into the roar of engines. Inside Hell's Fury, the tail gunner, Sergeant Red Collins, cackles over the intercom. "That one's for London!" The laughter dies as another burst of flak rocks the aircraft. The nose glass cracks. The navigator bleeds from a cut over his eye. Still, McKenna steadies the plane. They have a job to finish. By the time the bomb bay doors open, the air is thick with smoke and wreckage. Dozens of B-17s are burning, spiraling down like falling suns. The Germans call it Der Himmel brennt, the burning sky. At 12:12 p.m., McKenna gives the order. "Bombs away!" The plane lurches upward as the payload releases. Below, the city of Schweinfurt erupts in fire and dust. "Let's get the hell out of here," the co-pilot mutters. But the Luftwaffe isn't done. They swarm again, hundreds of Focke-Wulf 190s, cannons flashing. The air becomes a storm of tracer rounds and flame. Yet even as the flying fortresses fall, the formation holds. One squadron after another stays in perfect line, refusing to break. A wall of steel, bleeding but unbroken. By the time they reach the English Channel, 60 bombers are gone, 600 men dead or missing. And yet, the factories of Schweinfurt lie in ruins. The Germans had stopped laughing. Autumn 1943, Regensburg, Germany. The Luftwaffe prepares for revenge. In a hangar outside Regensburg, Major Hans Keller, an ace with 12 kills to his name, inspects his Messerschmitt. Mechanics swarm around it, loading ammunition and topping off fuel. A journalist asks, "Major, how do you rate the American bombers?" Keller smirks. "They are brave, but foolish. They fly into our airspace without fear, like cows to the slaughter." He straps in, confident as ever. Within the hour, he will meet those cows, face to face. The American target is Regensburg, home to the Messerschmitt Me-129 factory. This time, the bombers fly unescorted, deep into southern Germany. No fighter cover, no retreat. But as Keller's squadron climbs through the clouds, the first sight that greets them stops him cold. An endless wall of silver. Hundreds of B-17s in tight formation, glinting in the sunlight. Keller's radio crackles with nervous chatter. "My God, there are so many." He opens fire. His shells rip through one bomber's wing. It bursts into flame, trailing smoke. But before he can peel away, 5 fortresses turn their guns on him simultaneously. Tracers streak past his cockpit, ripping holes through the fuselage. His wingman vanishes in a fireball. He dives for cover, heart hammering. "It's like flying into a porcupine," he shouts over the radio. And that name sticks. The Luftwaffe begins calling the B-17 Der Eiserne Stachelschwein, the Iron Porcupine. Back in England, B-17 crews bury their dead and patch their planes. They drink to absent friends, to missions that seemed suicidal, but they keep flying. General Curtis LeMay, commander of the 305th Bomb Group, tells his men bluntly, "You are not just fighting for victory. You are the hammer that will break the enemy's will to fight." And slowly, it begins to work. Each raid forces Germany to pull fighters from the Russian front. Each burned factory tightens the noose around the Reich. Still, the cost is brutal. In 1943 alone, over 4,500 American bomber crewmen are killed. Many of their planes never return, vanishing into the smoke of occupied Europe. Yet every morning, the engines roar again. They keep flying because they know something the Germans don't. Soon, help is coming. Fast, sleek, and armed with range enough to follow them all the way to Berlin. The P-51 Mustang. March 6, 1944. Berlin, Germany. The sirens begin at dawn. Civilians run for shelter as hundreds of silver shapes pierce the clouds. B-17s escorted by Mustangs. For the first time, the capital of the Third Reich is under direct attack. The Luftwaffe scrambles everything it has left. Hundreds of fighters, led by veterans who once owned the skies. Among them is Major Keller, his Me-109 battered and oil-streaked. He looks up and feels his stomach drop. The formation stretches from horizon to horizon, a storm of bombers, flanked by darting fighters with long-range tanks under their wings. "They've brought their angels with them," he mutters. The Mustangs dive first. Fast, graceful, lethal. German pilots barely reach altitude before being cut down. Then the fortresses arrive, steady and implacable, like an army of moving fortress. Inside Hell's Fury, Captain McKenna wipes sweat from his face. "Berlin. Never thought I'd live to see it." His bombardier nods. "Sir, with all due respect, let's make sure we live after it." They reach the target zone. The massive railway yards at Tempelhof. Bomb bay doors open. The city below erupts into chaos. Flames spread across the horizon. Black smoke billowing higher than the clouds. Through flak bursts and tracer lines, the flying fortresses keep their formation. One by one, they drop their loads. And one by one, they turn for home. Scarred, battered, but not broken. By nightfall, over 500 bombers have struck Berlin. The Luftwaffe loses over 100 fighters in a single day. German command finally admits the unthinkable. They no longer control their own skies. Keller lands his crippled Messerschmitt on a ruined airfield. He climbs out, looks up at the fading contrails and whispers, "The sky belongs to them now." Months later, as Allied armies cross into Germany, civilians look up again, not in fear, but in surrender. The steady drone of B-17 engines has become the sound of inevitability. When the war ends, captured German pilots confess what they once denied. "We laughed at the flying fortress," one says, "but it was the machine that broke us." And so, the legend of the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress was written not in words, but in smoke, fire, and sacrifice. A machine born of aluminum and courage, a weapon mocked by its enemies, until it burned their empire from the sky.